It was a chilly morning, and the sun had barely risen over the horizon when I stepped out onto the front porch of our secluded country home. The air was crisp, and a light mist hung over the fields, giving everything an eerie, dreamlike quality. As I stretched and prepared for another uneventful day, something on the wooden floorboards caught my eye. A piece of paper, slightly crumpled and damp from the morning dew. Curious, I bent down and picked it up. The paper felt rough in my hands, as if it had been outside for some time. As I unfolded it, my breath caught in my throat. There, drawn in dark, heavy lines, was a crude sketch of a tree. Not just any tree, but the very tree I had been chopping down in the forest several months ago. Several months ago, when I was 16, I was chopping wood in the forest near our home. It was a routine I had grown accustomed to over the years, helping my family gather firewood for the colder months. That day, the sun was bright and the sky was clear, making it a perfect day for work. I had grabbed my trusty axe and headed into the woods, the familiar path crunching under my boots. The forest was my sanctuary, a place where I could escape from the pressures of school and the small dramas of everyday life. As I walked deeper into the trees, the air grew cooler and the sounds of civilization faded away. It was always this solitude with nature that I cherished. It seemed to strengthen me in ways I didn't fully understand back then, but would come to appreciate much later. The rhythmic swing of my axe as I cleared branches and deadwood felt almost meditative. Each strike echoed through the quiet woods, a comforting sound that grounded me in the present moment. Birds chirped overhead, squirrels scurried up trees, and the occasional rustle of leaves reminded me that I wasn't truly alone. I found myself reflecting on how much this place had shaped me. It wasn't just about physical strength. It was about resilience and clarity of mind. In the stillness of the forest, amidst towering trees and dappled sunlight, I found a peace that eluded me elsewhere. It was here that life's challenges seemed more manageable, the answers to my questions clearer. As I continued my work, the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the forest floor. I paused to wipe the sweat from my brow, breathing in the earthy scent of moss and fallen leaves. The axe in my hand felt like an extension of myself, a tool not just for clearing brush, but for carving out my own path in life. Little did I know then that these moments of solitude and physical exertion would prepare me for a much greater challenge ahead. Nature was indeed imparting a profound wisdom, one that would become invaluable as I faced the trials and tribulations yet to come. As I walked deeper into the trees, the air grew cooler and the sounds of civilization faded away. Birds chirped high above, and the occasional rustle of leaves signaled a squirrel or a deer moving through the underbrush. I found a large oak tree that seemed perfect for chopping. Its thick trunk promised plenty of wood, and it stood apart from the others, making it easier to work on without worrying about other trees getting in the way. I took a deep breath, enjoying the crisp, earthy scent of the forest, and then set to work. My axe swung in a steady rhythm, the blade biting into the wood with each powerful stroke. Chips of bark and wood flew in all directions, and the sound of the axe hitting the tree echoed through the quiet forest. I lost myself in the work, the repetitive motion and the physical exertion a welcome distraction from the thoughts that usually crowded my mind. After a while, I paused to wipe the sweat from my brow and take a drink of water. I leaned against the tree, feeling the rough bark press into my back as I looked up at the canopy above. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the forest floor. It was peaceful, almost serene. Just as I was about to resume my work, a flicker of movement caught my eye. I turned my head and saw him, a man standing about 100 feet away, dressed in a black hoodie and jeans. He was still, almost statuesque, and his eyes were fixed on me. But as I tried to recall his face or gaze in my memory, there was nothing there. It was as if his face didn't exist at all, as if he had no face. I blinked, uncertain if my mind was playing tricks on me. How could I not remember his face, his eyes? It was unsettling, to say the least. He remained unmoving, a silent figure amidst the rustling leaves and whispering wind. A sense of unease crept over me, mingling with curiosity, and a strange sense of recognition. Could this be the same man who had passed his mysterious gift to me through that enigmatic note? Was he here to observe, to ensure I understood my newfound role? Without breaking eye contact, or rather, where his eyes should have been, I slowly raised my hand in acknowledgement, a silent gesture of respect and acknowledgement. The figure in the black hoodie nodded imperceptibly, then turned and melted into the shadows of the forest, leaving behind only the echo of his presence. As I resumed my work, the encounter lingered in my thoughts. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning, that there was more to learn, more mysteries to uncover. And as I swung my axe, the forest seemed to whisper its secrets, urging me to continue on this journey of discovery and responsibility. As soon as he realized that I had seen him, he ran. The man in the black hoodie and jeans darted into the dense trees with a speed that caught me off guard. My heart pounded in my chest, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Who was he, and why was he watching me? His sudden flight filled me with unease, but I tried to shake it off. I took a deep breath and steadied myself. The logical part of my mind told me that it was probably nothing, just a random encounter in the woods. Maybe he was lost or out for a walk. But his reaction, the way he had bolted as soon as our eyes met, suggested otherwise. Deciding not to let the incident derail my work, I picked up my axe and resumed chopping the tree. Each swing of the blade felt heavier, as if the encounter had sapped some of my strength. I tried to lose myself in the rhythm of the work, the sound of the axe biting into the wood, echoing through the forest. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every now and then I would pause and glance around, half expecting to see the man lurking in the shadows. But the forest was quiet and still, with no sign of the stranger. I forced myself to focus on the task at hand, determined to finish what I had started. Time seemed to stretch, the minutes crawling by as I continued to chop. Eventually, the tree began to give way, creaking and groaning as it leaned to one side. With a final powerful swing, it came crashing down, sending a cloud of leaves and debris into the air. I stepped back, breathing heavily, and surveyed my work. The oak tree lay on the forest floor, ready to be split into firewood. Despite the accomplishment, the sense of unease lingered. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that the man in the black hoodie was more than just a curious passerby. But there was no use dwelling on it now. I gathered my tools and began the process of cutting the fallen tree into smaller, more manageable pieces. By the time I was finished, the sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the forest floor. I loaded the wood into the wheelbarrow, my muscles aching from the day's labor. As I pushed the heavy load back toward home, my thoughts kept drifting back to the stranger. On the way back home, as dusk settled over the forest, I saw him again. Standing at the edge of a small clearing, the man in the black hoodie and jeans stared at me with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. My heart skipped a beat, and I froze in my tracks, unsure of what to do. His presence was unsettling, like a predator watching its prey, yet he made no move to approach, remaining at the edge of the clearing, his figure partially obscured by the shadows. The fading light cast strange shapes around him, adding to the surrealness of the moment. I swallowed hard, trying to calm my racing heart. Fear and curiosity battled within me, fear of this mysterious stranger, and curiosity about why he seemed fixated on me. My instincts screamed at me to run, to flee from this eerie encounter, but something held me back. Was it defiance or foolishness? I couldn't say for sure. After what felt like an eternity, I forced myself to move. Every step I took was deliberate, careful not to make a sound. I kept my eyes on him, wary of any sudden movements. His gaze followed me, unwavering and intense, as if he could see right through me. As I passed by the edge of the clearing, I resisted the urge to glance back. I knew he was still watching, still waiting. The forest closed in around me, the trees whispering secrets that I couldn't decipher. The familiar path home suddenly felt like a labyrinth, every shadow hiding potential danger. Finally reaching the safety of our yard, I exhaled a shaky breath. My hands trembled slightly as I locked the door behind me, leaning against it for support. The encounter had shaken me to the core, leaving me with more questions than answers. Silence and fear became my constant companions. I kept the encounters with the man in the black hoodie to myself, afraid that sharing my story would only confirm my own descent into madness. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of my secret grew heavier with each passing moment. The fear of his presence haunted me relentlessly, Every shadow seemed to conceal his watchful eyes, every rustle of leaves a harbinger of his approach. I became hyper-vigilant, always on edge, scanning my surroundings for any sign of him. Despite my best efforts to avoid the forest, curiosity and dread drew me back. I would venture cautiously into the woods, heart pounding, half hoping and half dreading that I would catch another glimpse of him. But the forest remained eerily silent, as if holding its breath, waiting. Then, one day, he simply vanished. Weeks passed without any sightings, without any trace of his presence. The oppressive weight that had settled over me began to lift, replaced by a cautious sense of relief. Had he moved on? Had he found another target? The questions plagued me, but the absence of his menacing presence brought a measure of peace. Life gradually began to return to normal. I resumed my daily routines, cautiously venturing into the forest again, no longer plagued by the constant fear of being watched. The once ominous shadows now seemed less threatening, more ordinary. I confided in my parents, finally breaking the silence that had weighed so heavily upon me. Their support and understanding gave me strength, reassuring me that I was not alone in my ordeal. Together, we contacted the authorities, who assured us they would keep an eye out for any suspicious activity. As weeks turned into months, the memory of the man in the black hoodie began to fade like a distant nightmare. The fear and uncertainty that had gripped me slowly loosened their hold, replaced by a renewed sense of resilience. But the experience left its mark. I found myself looking over my shoulder more often, lingering doubts and fears lingering in the back of my mind. Would he return? What had driven him to torment me? The questions remained unanswered, a lingering shadow on an otherwise bright horizon. Yet, with each passing day, the sun rose a little higher, casting its warm light over my once shrouded world. I took solace in the safety of home, in the comforting presence of family and friends who had stood by me during my darkest hours. And as time passed, the memory of the man in the black hoodie became just that, a memory. A chapter in my life filled with fear and uncertainty, but also with resilience and newfound strength. I learned to trust my instincts, to listen to the whispers of intuition that had guided me through the storm. Life went on, and though I would occasionally catch myself glancing nervously into the shadows, I refused to let fear rule me. I had survived, emerged stronger on the other side. The forest, once a place of terror, once again became a sanctuary, a place where I could find peace and solace, where the echoes of fear gradually faded into the tranquility of nature. And so I walked forward, no longer haunted by the specter of the man in the black hoodie, but forever changed by the ordeal that had tested my courage and resolve. And so this morning, as I stepped onto the porch of my home, I found a strange note lying there. It was eerily familiar, a crude sketch of a tree, just like the one from before, accompanied by a chilling message: "We will meet again." My heart sank as I read those words. The feeling of unease that had faded into the background now returned with a vengeance. How had he found me again? What did he want this time? I stood there, staring at the note, my mind racing with questions and fears. Had he been watching me all this time, waiting for the right moment to reappear? The memories of our previous encounters flooded back, each one more unsettling than the last. I hesitated, torn between confronting this new threat head-on or retreating into the safety of my home. But deep down, I knew I couldn't ignore it. I had to face him, find out once and for all who he was and what he wanted from me. With a shaky breath, I pocketed the note and resolved to take action. The police had been notified before, but this time I needed to be proactive. I would gather evidence, take precautions, and confront him on my own terms. Throughout the day, the sense of foreboding hung over me like a dark cloud. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching, waiting for my next move. Every shadow seemed to conceal his presence, every sound a potential warning. As night fell, I fortified my resolve. Armed with a flashlight and a sense of determination, I ventured into the forest once more. The trees loomed overhead, their branches swaying in the cool night breeze. The rustling leaves whispered secrets that I strained to decipher. I called out into the darkness, my voice echoing through the silent woods. "I know you're out there! Show yourself!" There was no response, only the haunting echo of my own words. I pressed on, guided by a mixture of fear and adrenaline. The path ahead seemed endless, each step bringing me closer to a confrontation I both dreaded and anticipated. Hours passed with no sign of him. Doubt began to creep in. Had I imagined the note, exaggerated its significance? Was I chasing shadows, trapped in a cycle of fear and paranoia? Just as I considered turning back, I heard it, a faint rustling to my left. I froze, heart pounding in my chest. Slowly, cautiously, I turned towards the sound, the beam of my flashlight trembling in my grip. And there he was, emerging from the shadows like a spectre from my nightmares. The man in the black hoodie stood before me, his presence sending a chill down my spine. His face was obscured, hidden in the darkness, but his eyes bore into mine with a cold intensity. Without a word, he began to approach, each step deliberate and calculated. Panic surged through me, but I stood my ground, refusing to let fear paralyze me. "Why are you doing this?" I demanded, my voice trembling but defiant. "What do you want from me?" He stopped a few feet away, his gaze unwavering. Slowly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out another note, holding it out towards me. My hands shook as I took it, unfolding it with a sense of dread. Written in the same jagged script as before were just 2 words: "Find out." And with that enigmatic message, he turned and vanished into the darkness once more, leaving me standing alone in the forest, shaken but determined. As I made my way back home, the weight of his words settled over me. The mystery deepened, the stakes heightened. I knew now that this was far from over, that I had only scratched the surface of a puzzle that threatened to consume me. But amidst the fear and uncertainty, a flicker of determination burned within me. I would find out the truth. I would unravel the mystery of the man in the black hoodie, no matter the cost. And so, with each passing day, I prepared myself for the inevitable confrontation, knowing that the answers I sought lay waiting somewhere in the shadows. With each passing day, the cryptic note from the man in the black hoodie weighed heavily on my mind. As I returned home that evening, my thoughts were consumed by the ominous message, "Find out." I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being drawn into something much larger and more dangerous than I had ever imagined. Night after night, I pondered over the meaning of those words. The note itself had been lost in the shuffle of papers and thoughts, seemingly gone forever. But one fateful night, as if guided by an unseen force, I woke suddenly from a restless sleep. Moonlight spilled through the window, casting an ethereal glow across my room. There, on the table beside my bed, lay the note. I reached for it with trembling hands, heart racing in anticipation. Unfolding the paper, I saw the message illuminated by the moon's gentle light. In an unusual script, it read, "You are the chosen one." The words sent a chill down my spine, yet a surge of determination coursed through me. This was no ordinary mystery. It was my destiny to uncover the truth behind the enigmatic figure in the black hoodie. Despite the dangers that lay ahead, I knew I couldn't turn back now. Armed with newfound resolve, I embarked on a relentless pursuit of clues and answers, navigating through shadows and secrets that seemed to envelop me at every turn. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but I was driven by a singular purpose, to unravel the mystery that had chosen me. As I ventured deeper into the unknown, I found myself drawing closer to a revelation that would change everything I thought I knew. With each step forward, the truth beckoned, elusive yet tantalizingly close. And so, under the watchful gaze of the moon, I embraced my role as the chosen one, ready to confront whatever lay ahead in my quest for answers. The next night, under the moonlight's gentle glow, I decided to revisit the mysterious piece of paper. Curiosity gnawed at me. What was this strange inscription that appeared on the sheet? I sat by the window, where the moon illuminated the table, taking the note in my hands to examine it closely. As the moonlight bathed the paper, words began to materialize as if the letter itself had come to life. Before my eyes, the text changed, words appearing and disappearing like a spell deciphered only under specific conditions. I scrutinized each line, trying to grasp the meaning of these unusual messages, and then I saw the inscription, "You are chosen in this world and universe." My heart raced with the realization. The words on the note weren't just a cryptic message. They held the key to a profound revelation. As I read them over and over, their significance sank in. The man in the black hoodie was not merely a stranger, but a mage who had passed his gift to me. From that moment on, I became like him, a guardian of the forest, tasked with protecting and nurturing its delicate balance. With newfound clarity, I understood my role. I was to continue his legacy, ensuring the forest thrived and endured. It was a responsibility I embraced wholeheartedly, knowing that every action I took would impact the ecosystem around me. As dusk settled over the trees, I felt a deep connection to the woods, sensing its pulse and rhythm. The rustling leaves seemed to whisper secrets of generations past, and I knew I was part of something larger than myself. In the days that followed, I prepared myself for the task ahead. I studied the ancient ways of forest magic, learning to harness my newfound abilities to heal and protect. Each day brought a deeper understanding of the delicate balance between humanity and nature, and I vowed to pass on this knowledge to the next generation. One day, another young soul would come to love this forest as fiercely as I did. When that time came, I would pass on my gift, ensuring that the legacy of the man in the black hoodie endured. Together, we would continue to safeguard this sacred place, where magic and nature intertwined, protecting it for generations to come.